The urge to defend yourself is completely natural. But what if I told you that every time you feel the deep, instinctive need to argue your position, to justify your choices, or to fiercely protect your reputation, you are actually confirming one single massive delusion that serves only to keep you trapped in anxiety and conflict? The key difference between a proactive, intelligent response and a frantic, ego-driven defense is the secret gateway to achieving an utterly unshakable, untouchable inner peace. When you manage to fully grasp the profound, liberating truth that there is no fragile, isolated, separate self-requiring, constant, exhausting protection, you immediately gain the elemental quality of water. Take a moment to truly contemplate this. Water does not pause its journey to debate the sharpness or size of the rocks blocking its path. It does not waste energy attempting to erect permanent barriers or build walls against the sudden rush of the wind. It simply adapts with perfect flexibility, finding a way to flow around, serenely move over, and eventually penetrate or wear through every single obstacle it encounters. And by simply yielding, by choosing non-resistance, it fundamentally reshapes even the hardest, most formidable stone formations over time. Pause and absorb this critical perspective. Every single desperate act of self-defense is, in essence, an internal declaration that there is, in fact, something precious, finite, and vulnerable within you that must be constantly guarded. You are actively and continuously solidifying the deep-seated illusion of separation, the persistent, limiting belief that you are a fragile, delicate ego that can be genuinely and permanently wounded by a few spoken words, some fleeting negative opinions, or the random, uninformed judgments of another person's mind. But imagine the transformative power if you simply chose not to take the bait. What if you could conjure a scenario where someone criticizes you even harshly and, instead of your immediate, instinctive, and habitual defensiveness, you meet their statement with genuine, open, and non-judgmental curiosity? What if you could train yourself to perceive their words, not as a direct personal assault on your core identity or being, but merely as neutral information, as simple, subjective feedback? Or perhaps as just one more momentary wave expressing itself in the immense, boundless, and indifferent ocean of universal consciousness? I once observed the life of a highly intelligent woman who spent nearly her entire existence trapped in the exhausting cycle of self-justification. Every single major decision she made, every minor preference she held, every critical life choice had to be rigorously and emotionally explained, tirelessly fought for, and made totally palatable and acceptable to a silent unseen, yet omnipresent jury she perpetually carried inside her head. She completely depleted her energy and spirit, trying to prove again and again that she was adequate enough, she was smart enough, and she was fundamentally worthy enough of respect and belonging. Then, miraculously, one day, something profound and permanent finally shifted inside her. She finally came to the devastating realization that she had been willingly placing herself on a never-ending trial for imaginary crimes, for accusations, slights, and insults that were never, in reality, even directly leveled against her. The very second she completely and definitively ceased her inner and outer defending, something truly extraordinary occurred. The perceived external attack stopped entirely. Not because the outside world suddenly became kinder or changed its fundamental nature, but simply because there was suddenly nothing solid, nothing resistant, left to strike. She had, through inner work, become like the vast, open, and infinite sky, serene and utterly untroubled by the temporary, fleeting weather systems, the clouds of judgment and storms, of criticism passing harmlessly through its expanse. Here is the essential key to this wisdom. Much of what we impulsively label an attack or an insult is nothing more than the other person expressing their own deep-seated confusion, their own unaddressed fear, or their desperate, primal need to feel correct or right about something in a world that so often feels chaotic, confusing, and fundamentally incomprehensible to them. When any person criticizes you, They are almost always giving you far more valuable information about their internal landscape, their emotional wounds, and their personal limitations than they are saying anything true or essential about yours. The individual who repeatedly labels you lazy is often grappling with a deep, private terror of their own periods of stillness, their own lack of motivation, or their own unused potential. The woman who vehemently accuses you of being selfish is usually struggling with overwhelming guilt or persistent anxiety around her own legitimate but unaddressed needs and desires. The person who aggressively attacks or judges your life choices is frequently projecting their own agonizing self-doubt and the fear of their own unmade decisions. When you mindlessly absorb these external projections personally, when you emotionally engage in the defense against them, you immediately become inextricably entangled in their confusion. You voluntarily step into a precisely choreographed dance of mutual delusion, where both participants instantly forget they are simply playing temporary roles, acting out their scripts in a brief, cosmic, and ultimately meaningless drama. What would happen to the dynamic if you simply chose to walk off the stage entirely? What if you actively declined to participate in the petty, exhausting game of offense and defense? This powerful stance is absolutely not about becoming cold, emotionless, or indifferent to the world. It's about profoundly recognizing that authentic, invincible strength emerges, not from the fragile act of building and desperately maintaining high defensive walls, but from having no fixed walls to maintain in the first place. True, lasting security is never found in rigidly defending a predefined position, but in having no fixed, vulnerable position whatsoever to defend. Contemplate this powerful paradox. The more desperately, frantically, and tirelessly you attempt to safeguard your external image, your carefully constructed reputation, and your intellectual sense of self, the more inherently fragile, vulnerable, and unstable you become. You are like someone attempting to carry a vital liquid in a porous, wide-open basket. The tighter and harder you try to grasp it, the faster and more inevitably it slips through your fingers and vanishes. But when you finally, completely release the exhausting need to grasp, when you stop trying to maniacally control how every single person sees or perceives you, you discover an immensely liberating and remarkable truth. You are already fully whole. You are inherently and eternally complete. The external approval you relentlessly seek, the constant validation you tirelessly chase, the respect you demand from others, absolutely none of it, in reality, can add a single, essential, or a necessary thing to the totality of who you already are at your core. There is a timeless, profound story about a revered Zen master who was falsely accused by the local villagers of having fathered a child. The townsfolk approached him, full of condemnation, outrage, insistent demands for a full explanation and justification. The master, hearing their collective fury and accusations, simply replied with total stillness, "Is that so?" and proceeded to take the infant into his care to raise as his own. Years later, the real father, overcome by guilt, was finally discovered. The very same villagers returned to the master, now full of apologies, lavish praise for his immense character, and deep admiration for his incredible patience. The master listened quietly to their apologies and praise, and again, he simply replied, "Is that so?" and then gently returned the child to its true parents. Do you see the core lesson and the profound secret in his consistent behavior? He neither felt the need to defend his innocence when maliciously attacked, nor did he become puffed up with pride and vanity when publicly praised. This unwavering consistency stems not from a lack of care or emotion, but from a profound internal knowing that your truest essence, your real self, cannot possibly be touched, altered, or wounded by fleeting words, random opinions, or the temporary, transient emotional storms that constantly rage through human consciousness. And here is where the concept becomes even more universally applicable and empowering. The very moment you fundamentally cease defending your own self, you simultaneously and quite naturally stop feeling the urgent urge to attack others. Why? Because you realize at a deep, visceral level that there is no separate other to attack or be attacked by. The person whose behavior irritates you, the one who constantly challenges your views, the one who appears to stand in active opposition to you, is merely another wave emerging from the same single ocean, another unique and temporary expression of the same fundamental, the underlying reality that constitutes you. The mystics, sages, and ancient philosophers have always pointed to this ultimate truth. They speak ceaselessly of the fundamental unity that underlies all apparent diversity and conflict. They possess the capacity to see right through the petty game of separation, the deeply ingrained illusion of isolated egos battling one another for temporary, meaningless supremacy. When this essential insight truly settles in your bones, when you really integrate this truth into your daily life, something wonderful and transformative happens. You can finally engage fully and deeply with life's challenges without needing to be fundamentally at war with existence itself. You can play your vital part in the human drama with complete, unwavering commitment, but without taking it so personally or seriously that you lose your essential sense of humor and perspective about the whole cosmic performance. You truly become the skilled actor who knows, without a doubt, that he is merely on a stage. This actor can play the challenging role of the hero or the difficult role of the villain with total, compelling commitment, but he doesn't go home at night genuinely believing he is that temporary character. He knows it is a performance, an expressive dance, a magnificent game of consciousness exploring itself through a countless variety of fleeting forms. Now, you might very reasonably ask, but what about justice and morality? What about standing up fiercely for what is right? If I never defend myself, won't people simply walk all over me and exploit my weakness? Won't evil and injustice triumph? These are exceptionally good and critical questions, and they accurately point to that crucial distinction we must make. There is a vast moral difference between a personal, fearful ego defense and an appropriate, centered, clear-headed response. There is a deep, ethical difference between frantically protecting a fragile ego and intelligently protecting what genuinely, ethically needs protection in the world. When you fundamentally stop defending yourself, you do not, in any sense, become passive, paralyzed, or inert. Quite the opposite, you become incredibly responsive. You now address situations, challenges, and conflicts from a place of crystal clear clarity and inner stillness, rather than from emotional reactivity, wounded pride, or defensive fear. If someone is intentionally spreading malicious lies about you, you might choose to calmly and factually correct the public record, not because your precious, fragile reputation is under dire threat, but because the truth consistently serves the overall situation and the collective good better than the falsehood. If someone is behaving in ways that cause genuine, demonstrable harm to others, you might choose to take firm, clear action, not because their behavior has personally offended your moral sense of right and wrong, but because the welfare and safety of the community calls for a strong, measured response. Crucially, you execute these necessary, powerful actions without the slightest emotional charge of personal, self-referential defense. You operate solely from a place of clear-sighted observation, assessing what the situation needs for resolution rather than what your wounded ego demands for its protection. This is the profound chasm that separates the true, centered warrior from the panicked reactor. The warrior acts from a place of deep, connected center, from clarity and from connection to the larger whole. The reactor acts blindly from fear, from a sense of total separation, and from the desperate, consuming need to protect a self that was never, in truth, actually under any real threat. Let me share with you a final concept that might sound truly radical and counterintuitive. Most of the threats, criticisms, and slights that you think you urgently need to defend yourself against are not actually occurring in the physical, external world. They are occurring almost entirely in your own internal landscape in the anxious stories you repeatedly tell yourself about what other people might be thinking, about what their words must mean, or about what their actions must say about your worth. You construct an entire intricate drama in your head where you are always the innocent, beleaguered victim, and they are always the villain. And then you completely exhaust your energy defending against this entirely imaginary, internally created assault. Meanwhile, the other person might not even be giving you a second thought. They might just be having a truly terrible day, struggling to express their own deep confusion, or simply being human in all the messy, flawed, and imperfect ways that humans are. But even in the rare instances when someone is actually criticizing you with genuine malice, even when they are genuinely trying to hurt, diminish, or exploit you, you're calm. Dignified refusal to defend yourself does not, paradoxically, make their attack more powerful. It renders it utterly powerless. Think of this analogy. If you throw a tennis ball violently at a solid brick wall, it rebounds directly back with nearly equal force. But if you throw that same ball out into the vast, open, and infinite space, it simply continues until it runs out of momentum and harmlessly dissipates. When you consciously refuse to be the unyielding wall, when you choose to become the silent, encompassing space instead, the attack has nowhere concrete to land or push back against. This is not a sign of weakness. It is, in fact, the ultimate non-reactive and spiritual strength. And here is the beautiful, universal outcome. When you stop defending yourself, you simultaneously grant an unspoken permission for others to stop attacking. When you resolutely decline to play the game of mutual combat, you instantly create a vital space for genuine communication, for real understanding, and for the kind of authentic connection that is utterly impossible when everyone is furiously busy protecting their own rigid positions and identities. The deepest, most profound reason to never defend yourself has nothing at all to do with effective tactics, clever strategy, or getting better results in your strained relationships. The deepest reason is simply that defense is founded upon a fundamental, tragic misunderstanding of what you truly are. You are not a fragile thing that can be permanently threatened. You are not a static object that can be damaged, broken, or diminished. You are the vast, unbounded awareness in which all experiences, all thoughts, all feelings, all sensations arise and then peacefully pass away. You are the silent consciousness that serenely observes all external and internal events without ever being fundamentally touched, stained, or altered by any of them. When someone criticizes you, when they attack your character, or when they aggressively question your motives, they are simply interacting with their own idea of you, their own mental projection of who they think you are. But that flimsy, inaccurate image is not you. It is merely a thought construct in their mind, no more real, solid, or threatening than a fleeting shadow cast upon a wall. The real youth, the awareness that is reading and comprehending these words, right now cannot be defended precisely because it cannot, at its core, be attacked. It is like space itself, infinite, vast, open, and utterly untouchable by any passing object. This is the ultimate freedom, not the temporary freedom to do whatever you selfishly want, but the eternal freedom to be what you are without apology, without defense, and without the constant, draining anxiety of whether you are adequately measuring up to some imaginary, unreachable standard. So the next time someone offers a sharp critique, the next time you feel that familiar, burning urge to defend, explain, or justify, remember this single vital truth. You are not what they think of you. You are not even the limited version you think of yourself. You are the boundless, silent awareness in which all these temporary thoughts and opinions arise and peacefully dissolve, like harmless clouds in an endless blue sky. Rest securely in that awareness. Be that sky. Allow the temporary, loud weather of human drama to move quickly through you without ever being fundamentally disturbed by it.